Hello everyone, and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement. This is part 5 in the Apple II Plus repair series, and as you can see the machine is still working, so this is not really a repair video per se, it's more a video about following up on some loose ends that I missed on the first 4 parts and a couple other new developments. So anyways, without further ado, let's get right to it. I want to kick off this video by doing an update on the II Plus. It's been a little bit of time since I finished up the repairs on the motherboard, as you saw in the previous parts, and since then, this computer has been working perfectly. No other faults have come up. I have been using it to do all sorts of things, play games and stuff like that. There have been no issues with the repair work on the motherboard. It doesn't mean this machine is perfect though, and the first issue I want to talk about is the keyboard. When I last talked about the keyboard, I think in part 3 and 4 of the video series, I had ended up replacing several of the key switches because they just completely weren't working or super unreliable. But due to the fact that I didn't have enough working, good quality Alps SKCC switches, I ended up having to take the keycaps off and dump some Deoxit down the key stem into the switch itself, hoping that that would kind of make things work better. I have notes here from the previous part on the keys, on what I did, and unfortunately, I clearly didn't do a very good job writing down notes about what I did because I just have this list of key letters here and not really any indication of what I did, like which ones of these have had Deoxit in them and which had the key switch replaced entirely. So I'm not totally sure on that. But I can tell you that there's still a couple switches that aren't working very well. Nothing is totally dead, which is good, means this thing is usable. I have found that the 6 key is pretty problematic. In fact, okay, so there we go. It just got 2 6s when I should have had 1. Let me just make sure I type the sequence properly. Obviously alternating between 2 keys. Okay, there we go. Notice there the 6, I missed key pushes. Sometimes you get multiple. It's actually worse when you first turn the computer on after not using it in a while. It gets better the more you use the key, and it's not working super great. But I am pleased to report that other than the 6, all the other keys are working completely fine on this keyboard at this point. I haven't noticed any issues with any of them. It really is just the 6 key. So let me remove the cover of this machine so I can take the keyboard out because I have a few things to try to see if I can fix that 6 key. Cool, the keyboard is out, and I have to say the 303 protectants I put on the keys, it did a pretty good job. They still look pretty good, these keys. I removed the encoder board, so this is what converts the keyboard matrix here into this 8-bit paralleled signal that goes into the motherboard. Now, I had mentioned in the previous video pushing reset versus having to push control reset, and I'm pretty sure that it's this switch right here on the encoder that's what controls whether you have to push control reset or just reset. On the silk screen, it does just say S1 underneath there. It doesn't really say if that's what that does, but I'm pretty sure that's what that is. If I'm wrong, please put a comment in the comment section below. I do also find it interesting that there's a 9-pin D-sub connector space on this board right here. Does anyone know what exactly that would be used for? Would it be for turning this keyboard into an external keyboard with a cable that went to the Apple II Plus? And then here, there are holes for what looks like another toggle switch. So I'm just curious what these two things are used for. Looking at the PCB here, I can see where I marked where I switched out keys, I think. I put little dashes and dots and stuff around. So it looks like I switched out the 8 key and I switched out the 2 key on the top row, but definitely the 6 key, which is this one right here, it doesn't have any kind of marking at all. When I last worked on this keyboard, I had mentioned that I ran out of key switches that were good. In fact, I have a bag here that says bad parts, and these are all SKCC switch parts, including a lot of the long stems that are used on the Macintosh keyboards, which also uses the same switches, just the stem length is different. Now here are the 2 stem types. On the left is the taller one from the Macintosh keyboards, and on the right, the shorter stems that are from this keyboard, but also other keyboards that use this TRS-80 Model 80, TI-99. They all seem to use this shorter one. but really the only difference is the length of the slider part. The bottom part, which is what pushes on the spring and on the little metal pad inside, the little metal contact, all that stuff is the same. So these are completely interchangeable. So if you end up buying replacement switches off eBay that are for the long stem, like from a Mac keyboard, and you have a short one that has a problem with dead keys and the stem's not broken, you can just take them apart and swap the parts around to get working switches for your short stem keyboard. Now, in talking to someone, I can't remember if it was on Twitter. It might have been on Twitter. I can't really remember. It might have been a friend of mine. Anyway, someone suggested to me that I should take some fully assembled switches and put them in an ultrasonic cleaner, and that maybe that would make them work. Because I had tried everything to get them to work. I flushed them out with alcohol, 99%, opening them up to do that, really exercised them, blowing air through it, all sorts of stuff like that. And just nothing I could do would seem to get them working, especially when they were totally dead. So I ended up doing that. I took my little small Chinese ultrasonic cleaner and I put, I think, alcohol in there. I don't quite remember. It might have been soapy water, and I left it in there for 10 minutes at something like 40 degrees, 45 degrees Celsius. And you know what? I think I put in 6 or 7 switches that I had into the ultrasonic cleaner, and these 4 came out and they seemed to work. Now, I took these out, I let them dry, I put them in the warm windowsill in the house for several days, make sure they were completely dried out, and they did seem to be working. With my multimeter, at least, I could test continuity, and they seemed good. Now, it's been several weeks since I've done that cleaning, and I don't know if they still work. So let's get the multimeter out, put it on continuity, and give it a try. For testing these, it's really fiddly to try to hold the multimeter probes on both of the pins. So what I've done, I've taken 2 of these clip leads that I have these hooks attached to the ends, and I've clipped this onto the multimeter. That way there is no ambiguity that I have good contact with the pins on the bottom of these. So we'll just clip this on, and when I push it, so it's reading down around 1.8 ohms, which should be perfectly good for a working switch. So this one still appears to work. Excellent. 1.28 ohms on the next switch. That one works well as well. 1.2 on the next one. That's looking good. And 1.1 on the last one. So it appears that even though it's been a couple weeks, all 4 of these that went through the ultrasonic cleaner work now. Now remember, I mentioned that there were others in there with it too. I think I had 6 or 7. The other ones, after cleaning and letting them dry out, they weren't working properly. They were either very intermittent, or the resistance was too high, or there was no continuity at all. And I want to mention that before, when I put these into the ultrasonic cleaner, before doing that, and I'm sorry I didn't film it, they were all completely dead. You would connect the multimeter up just like I did here, push the button, there would be nothing. So the ultrasonic cleaner did wonders for these. I wish I had known that before I had done all this disassembly, or I would have just taken out the flaky switches and put them in the cleaner. In fact, I'm going to swap out the 6 key now with one of these, but I'm not going to throw that switch away. I'm going to put it in the ultrasonic cleaner as well, and hopefully it becomes good as well, and I can just put it in the bag for later use. It really does help to mark the PCB with a marker for which switch you're going to be removing. There have been plenty of times where I'll put the desoldering iron onto the wrong 2 pins, and then I'll have to fix that. So you just put a little mark. If you don't like those marks, you can take it off with IPA. The Sharpie comes right off, but I completely recommend that just to help you not make mistakes. For removing the solder, I think I'm going to try using something I just bought, and it's this thing here, which is a SOLDAPULLT. This is a solder sucker, and apparently this is the best ones available. I actually saw this on Dave Jones's EEV blog channel. He had a mail call where this was shown. The guy who invented this started a company in Los Angeles, at Van Nuys, which is a city within Los Angeles. He started a company selling these things, and that same company, which is family owned, still makes and sells this thing. You can find it on Amazon. That's where I bought this, but you can buy it directly from them as well. They make an ESD safe version, which is, I guess, coated in metal. And apparently all of these other cheap solder suckers that you see floating around, like this one here I have, is a copy of this design. And I have never had one of these cheapy ones that was any good. In fact, the anodized blue aluminum ones, those are garbage. You use them a handful of times and they're dead. Apparently, this one is the bomb. Yeah, this thing works really well. I think it was $22, so it's pretty inexpensive. There's a little bit of technique, so practice on something. Took me a few tries to get that working, but these are both completely free, and it did the trick. I love it. To To make sure they're fully desoldered, just wiggle the pins, and they should move freely inside the hole. You can do it with your finger or you can do it with a screwdriver. Both of those are free. For removing these switches from these keyboards, there's clearly a technique, which I'm just not good at. I think the fact that there was so much gunk on this keyboard there, I got that one out without too much trouble. I used 2 flat blade screwdrivers, but sometimes there can be really stuck. And I think I mentioned in my previous video, sometimes taking these out, they were so stuck in there, and it wasn't the pins on the board. It was just the body being stuck in the hole that pulling them out cracked the cases or took chunks out. But luckily this 6-key switch came right out without too much trouble. So I just have to remove this little cap here. There we go. Gonna keep this switch separate so I know that's one that needs to be cleaned. And I take one of these that I have cleaned. The pins on the switch itself are set to one side and they're offset from each other. So there's really only one way this can actually go in to the base plate here and clip in. So there it is, clicked right in, and the pins stick through the board in the correct orientation. Let me just reinstall this little riser cappy thingy here, like that. And then we just apply fresh solder onto the switch and the PCB. Let's give the 6-key a test. Control reset. Turn on the monitor, of course. Cool, okay, let's see. Is the 6-key working reliably? Certainly seems so. This is good. So I'd say that this problem is fixed. So while I was working on repairing the Apple II Plus and this keyboard, I was in contact with Stewart, the gentleman who donated this incredible machine to me back in that first video. And while I was mentioning the keyboard wasn't working, what turns up in the mail? Another keyboard. Now, Stewart had sent this to me, and he found this, I think, online, and mentioned to me that this keyboard was sold as not fully working. So this keyboard has issues too. Now, it was Stewart's intent that I take parts from this keyboard, which was sold as not fully working, and mix and match parts from both keyboards to make one really good keyboard. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to Stewart, and also unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize that Apple had multiple keyboards on the Apple II Plus. The Alps SKCC keyboard is not the only one that was commonly found, and this is one of the other types. Now, flipping it over really gives away that it's different. It's got a blue PCB, has these plastic strengthening bars here. There are no solder pads or any kind of pins showing through on this, which means this is more like a membrane keyboard or some kind of plate switch that's laying on top of the PCB, something along those lines. In addition, the keycaps aren't even fully compatible with each other. These have a more cylindrical profile to them, and these are more like a bowl, an upside down bowl or a cup. And they're also shiny on the top of the keys, while these are textured. Now, this keyboard is filthy dirty, but I can tell right away that the keys themselves are textured and these are shiny. And sure enough, when you combine the two keys right next to each other, they're clearly not compatible with each other. This is the 6th key off the other keyboard, and let's see if it's even compatible with the mount on here. It is not. It might be able to force it on there, but it definitely doesn't just go on easily to these little adapter things which are on top of the SKCC. Both has a plus, so you would think it might be compatible, but because the key height isn't even the same, there's just no way that these are going to work anyways. Now, one thing about this keyboard is it says power. Yes, on this little thing. Let's pop this off. Okay, there's the little light bulb underneath. Could it be possible that this is compatible with this one that doesn't say power anymore? Can I switch them? And if I can, that would be epic. First things first is this thing is filthy, so let me clean it up a little bit. I mean, I should really test to see if it even goes on the keyboard first, shouldn't I? But I hope it does, because that would be amazing. And here's the moment of truth. What happens if I push this down onto here? Well, it seems to stay on. It's on there. Oh, that's awesome. That is exciting. Let's see if I can put this one back onto the other keyboard. Yep, that goes right on as well. So I guess those are interchangeable. So that is fantastic. Let's give it a quick test. Yes, look at that. That looks so much better. Okay, so what I want to do now is I'm going to test this replacement keyboard, which incidentally is really light feeling. It doesn't have the heft that this one has. So let me move the Alps one out of the way. I do appreciate that whoever sold this keyboard did take effort to prevent the pins on the socket here, the little socket cable thing, from getting bent. They put a little piece of foam on here. Let's pop it off and see how good it looks. Oh yeah, it looks good, not bent. All right, and we just connect this up to the motherboard here. Make sure it goes in correctly, like so. And here we go. All right, so let's see what works and what doesn't work on this keyboard. So here's some funny irony. Guess which key is the one that doesn't work on this keyboard? Everything works except for one key. Yes, the 6 key. 6 key is totally dead. All the other keys appear to work properly, at least on first impression. Now, when I flip this over, it looks like the PCB is held on by little screws, very similar to the way a Commodore keyboard's put together. So it's possible that taking those out, you can lift the PCB away, and underneath are going to be all the little contacts, little metal things, or whatever is going on underneath this keyboard, if it's rubber or metal, to allow you to clean it, potentially fix this keyboard up. Also, not completely unexpected, the feel of this keyboard is not so great. It's fine. I've felt far worse keyboards on vintage 8-bit microcomputers, but this one, it doesn't hold a candle to the Alps SKCC. So if you have Apple II Pluses and you have a chance to get the Alps keyboard over this keyboard, I definitely recommend the Alps keyboard. I'm definitely glad I have this keyboard though, because of course, I have a replacement proper power light on the other one now. But also, if the other one starts to really fail, like more switches start to die, I just don't have any more replacement switches. So having a spare keyboard is certainly a good thing on something like an Apple II Plus, because it seems like these keyboards are now becoming very rare and rather expensive to find. Now, when I first showed this keyboard, which was part 3 of this repair series, I had a viewer comment to say that he has had problems with the parallel data signal over this ribbon cable, and that from his integrity standpoint, putting a ferrite ring on it really did help him with reliability. And then he said that some of that double bouncing key stuff that I was having can be solved by the ferrite ring. Now, I know in my case, it clearly is bad switches that were causing all my problems, because now I just replaced 6, everything is working. And he hadn't seen part 4 yet, where I do fix this keyboard by replacing key switches. So it's understandable, he was just offering a suggestion. But I thought it might be interesting to try one of these rings. Now, I have one of the ferrite rings right here. This is from a Commodore 64. It's on the keyboard cable on that thing. But I thought it might be interesting to try to install this onto here and see if it helps at all, or maybe it doesn't, but whatever, it'll be on there. It's not going to hurt, right? So to make this thing work, you don't just put it on and sort of have it floating around on here. You really have to loop it around this ring. Now, to facilitate that, it's not going to be super easy because, of course, there is this pin connector on the end here, and I have to get this through there, which it will fit. It has to go sideways, obviously, but I need to do it in a way that doesn't bend the pins, and then I have to loop it around. It's also going to reduce the length of this cable, which just makes it a little harder to plug it into the motherboard, but I think it's doable. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm just going to split this cable. So this cable is a ribbon right now. If I use my fingernails, I'm just going to split it apart. And that way this cable will be a little bit more flexible to accommodate the looping around of the ring. And don't worry, this doesn't have an ill effect on the ribbon cable. In fact, I used to do this all the time back in the PC days where you had 50-pin ribbon cables or 40-pin ribbon cables or 34-pin for floppy disks. I used to split them apart like this, and when you do that, you can then stack them up, use a zip tie on them, and it just makes it more flexible. You don't have this wide cable blocking airflow and whatnot. So this was a common tactic. The other thing you could do is, I'm doing like 3 or 4 wires at a time here. You could go even more and do like 1 at a time, really split this up. But because I've done this, this makes this cable a little more flexible to go side to side. Okay, let's give this a try. Try to feed this through. I need to be careful not to bend the pins. It's not super easy. There we go, got it through once. And I didn't bend anything, so perfect. So like I mentioned, it shortens the cable a little bit, but I think it's still going to be completely fine. And from my understanding, it's best to put the ring closer to the motherboard, the connector, than the side that would go into the encoder board here. And as you notice, it was essential that I did split the cable, otherwise this really wouldn't have been possible. Also, just for my ease, it's not like this is necessary, I'm just going to put a black dot right here to indicate pin 1. I mean, it does say 1 right on there. There's the red stripe on the cable, but the dot will just help me with the installation. I gave this plastic keyboard a quick clean, and interesting is check out the damage to the shift key there. Wonder what caused that. Ouch. The rest of the board is in really nice shape. Still a little dirty because I really just gave it a cosmetic cleaning on the top with a Windex and a cloth. But you can really see the texture of the keys that I was talking about as opposed to the shininess on the Alps SKCC. And notice the cylindrical profile of the keycaps as well versus the cup one on the other keyboard. Next up is to try to address my fix for this machine, which is this little stack here, right? This was a DP8304 if I recall, and I ended up doing this little hack job to get this thing running with a 74 LS245 bus transceiver. Now in part 3, when I did that little stack to make that computer boot, I didn't have any replacement 8304s, but I do now. But of course, guess where these come from? Yeah, you guessed it, AliExpress, directly from China. I paid just a mere $3.07 shipped for these 5 chips all the way from China, which is pretty amazing. I think these are out of production. They may not be, to be honest. I actually didn't really look on DigiKey to see if they still sell these. These appear to have a date code of 1990. Is that real? Who knows? Let's do some testing to see if these things are obviously fake. So first off, let's take a visual inspection. These are national semiconductor parts. Like I mentioned, the date code is 1990, and usually I find that when they're fake rebadged chips, the date codes don't make sense, like they're really new, like these would be 2006 chips or something. But no, these appear to be old. The cases look old, like these are pulls potentially from old equipment, but all of the markings on all of these chips are exactly the same. Something honestly that bodes well for these being pulls is that the IC legs actually have oxidation on them. They don't look completely brand new. I mean, the whole chips don't look completely brand new. The legs are a little askew. They were shipped on a piece of foam, but you know, these are probably, who knows how they were stored. But yeah, oxidation. I don't know. To me, that's actually a good sign. More good signs on the bottom. It actually has an NS logo right in the case. So that matches what's silkscreen on here. So that is good. And then there's an AB, which is nice. My initials, Adrian Black. Pretty cool. These are made for me, obviously. So yeah, they look on visual appearance like these are legit. First, I'm going to try a little IPA here. So I'll get some on this cotton swab, and let's see about rubbing off any paint or anything. That's really a telltale sign. No negative effect. Sometimes a little bit of dirt comes off, but nothing's really coming off. Next, I'm going to try a little nail polish remover, which is 100% acetone. We will see about rubbing these chips with this. I'll try clean side of the cotton swab. This will probably melt this foam pad if I let it touch it. And nothing should happen on the real chips. When you have paint and they're fake Chinese chips, yeah, it rubs off. Yep, nothing. No effect whatsoever. Good signs. Lastly, I'm going to use the pinout of the IC, which is right here. And I'm going to try to ohm out some of these, like the VCC to ground. Make sure there's not just a dead short on this chip. So multimeter in resistance mode. It's not in continuity mode, just resistance mode. VCC is pin 20, so I'm going to hook the positive from the multimeter to that. And ground is pin 10. And that looks quite good. We're getting 21 meg ohms. That's something I'd like to see. You don't want to see, say, 10 ohms or something ridiculous like that. I'm also going to test from A0, address line 0, over to B0. So these are the 2 pins that get connected while this chip is powered up. And we're also getting 30 meg ohm, 32 meg ohm. So those are great signs. So buyer beware when you get stuff from AliExpress, but you can get good deals. And $3 for 5 chips, when I looked at eBay for US sellers selling these chips, I thought that this was a good deal if the chips are genuine. So next thing to do, let's try this chip in the Apple II Plus. Okay, let me pop out the stack, the big old stack. Whoop, there it comes. And look, remember I was talking about how this tape is not sticky? Look at this. It's just barely holding on. Such crap. And let's get this 8304 into here. It's a little hard with the camera in the way. Okay, moment of truth. Here we go. It works. It freaking works. So at this point, you need to go back and test the other 8304s in this machine because I want to make sure I can put a little tick mark on them to say that they are good. And then I can retire this 74LS 255, put it back into my spare parts, and this little stack adapter, well, served me well, but I don't need it anymore. So I have to say, with AliExpress, you win sometimes and you lose sometimes. And in this case, I seem to have won, because these $3 chips for $5 work perfectly. Got to give them the thumbs up. So that's going to be it for the loose ends I'm going to cover in this video. But there'll be more in next week's video, so don't worry. We'll take a look at those cards inside the machine. But there's actually one more thing that I want to take a look at, and it's this right here. This is a package from Stewart, the man who donated the machine to me in the first place. All right, let's take a look inside here. I'll check it out. Happy Halloween. Here are some goodies for you to enjoy. That's right, you should be watching this video on Halloween. So happy Halloween to those of you who do partake in it and have fun with it. And if you're watching this on November 1st, happy Day of the Dead for those of you that celebrate that. All right, well, I see some candy and they're Pez dispensers. Check this out. Cool. Okay, we'll take a look at those in a sec. We got a t-shirt. Oh, awesome. There's some stickers. There's another packet of Pez. We do have some technical goodies in here. Looks like something for the Amiga. And here's a little something, maybe some ICs. And something here that's wrapped up. We'll take a look at that in a second. What's this? Oh, that's kind of interesting. A little old style Sony video camera. It probably goes with this thing here for the Amiga. So we'll look at that in a second. Something looks like a little stand for something. Not quite sure for what. It wouldn't be for this video camera. It's not big enough. It's almost like for a microphone or something. Oh, look at this. Okay, that's what this is for. It's one of those USB microphones. Microphones. No, USB microscopes. Oh no, the stand just broke. Oh, that's terrible. I take it this is the stand for it, but I think that maybe didn't quite survive shipping. I just barely touched it and it snapped. And one more thing in here, and that's it, just bubble wrap. If this is what I think it is, I'm kind of at a loss for words. Okay, let's take a look at this stuff on the bench. I have to move the Apple II Plus to make space for this. All right, let's start with these goodies right here. So yes, Pez dispensers, and they're really cute. Oh, look, it's a cute little pumpkin and 2 packs of Pez in there. But there's something about Pez that just, maybe it's that it brings back memories or something. I don't know, but there's a little bat, I guess. He looks like almost like a little bunny, but he's got wings, so he's a little bat. There was 1 extra pack of Pez that was just loose in the box. And we have, what's this? A little mummy head. A little Pez mummy. And this one here is a little witch. Cute, all very Halloween themed. And there's 1 more pack. And that's another pumpkin. It's a little scarier pumpkin. This one has a smiley face. And this one is a mad, manic face. All right, so let's load one of these up. Oh, gosh, I haven't done this in a very long time. Okay, so I think I have to open the Pez up, unwrap it. I wonder what flavor this is. Okay, I think that was not the right way to do it. I'm just going to have to eat one of these. I think it's maybe candy corn. Oh, yeah, it is. It says candy corn. Hey, I actually was able to tell that, because a lot of times when you eat these, you just can't tell what it is. Okay, so to load a Pez, we just slide it up. I am sure there are people who have techniques that are way more efficient than this. I think I'm supposed to unwrap it in a stack and you just sort of slide the whole stack in there. So anyways, you load that in like there, put it back down. And if you're not familiar with Pez, when you lift the head, it kind of spits out a piece. You grab it, put the head back down, and we want another piece. You just do that. It dispenses another piece. All right, let's check this out. Oh, neat. Okay, so this is funny. Looks like the Atari logo, doesn't it? Well, actually, St. John's is a place in Portland, and this shirt, which I think has the same logo on it, it does, St. John's. St. John's is a part of Portland, and St. John's has the St. John's Bridge. And it's a stunning looking old bridge, kind of like a mini Golden Gate bridge. It's beautiful, it's green, and underneath it is a park called Cathedral Park. And you see the towers and the buttresses that hold up the bridge, and they look kind of like this. And obviously it's modeled after the Atari logo, but it is St. John's. That is awesome. Now, just as a side note, in case anyone else wants to send me a t-shirt for whatever reason, this is a medium. I'm like in between a medium and a large, and some shirts that are mediums, unfortunately, are too small for me. Or if I wear it, it looks like I'm trying to be a muscle builder or something kind of ridiculous. Other medium shirts are completely fine. But I generally actually tend to buy large these days. Probably gained a little weight because of the human malware and being stuck at home, less exercise and all that. But also in Portland, it's cold in the winter and I layer. So I might wear a t-shirt like this on top of a thermal or something. And it's hard to see if this is a big medium or a small medium, but to be safe, large, American men's large is a good size for me. And there's a business card here and a sticker from Final Form, which I guess is maybe where this shirt came from. Well, I think he bought this back east in New Hampshire, but it was obviously made here in Portland from Final Form, and it's in North Portland. So I actually don't know this store. Anyways, I need to go check it out because it says retro games and records. So that's a pretty cool shop. Love it. All right, so let's see what else he sent. I couldn't tell what this was. It was wrapped up. Oh, wow. It looks like a wafer, a silicone wafer that they make chips out of. Wait, maybe these are. Are these? Is that what these actually are? So these aren't coasters? Because I can't quite tell what these are. Whoa, that's quite cool. They have like a, I mean, I don't know. These must be reproduction, right? These can't be real. They look really cool, though. Really, really cool. So I'm going to have to ask Stewart, what's the deal with these? If these are real, or if these are supposed to be coasters, or what exactly? And let's take a look at this little bag here. Looks like it has a couple ICs in here, a couple chips. So these EPROMs say 68764C. Could these actually be 2364 compatible, which would mean they would work if programmed directly in a Commodore 64 with no adapter? Yeah, I'm checking the data sheet here, and it says that it is pin compatible with a 68A364 mask programmable ROM. And that really does lead me to believe that these are pin compatible with the 2364s used in the Commodore 64. I don't even know if I have a programmer that can program these. Definitely my Mini Pro cannot program these, but maybe my old DOS programmer can. Next up, we have this here, this camera, and what is in this bag. And you can kind of see what this is. This looks like a NewTek DigiView. NewTek DigiView is a parallel port, or maybe serial port, capture device for the Commodore Amiga. Okay, this is like the worst RCA cable ever. It's like a speaker cable from one of those stereos from the 60s. Anyhow, composite video input. I think this can capture in color. Stewart sent this camera along with it, although it says a black and white video camera, so that's not going to work so great for color. Not unless you have filters to put in front, red, green, and blue, and you would do like a 3-pass capture with this thing in here. Oh, look, it is. Look at this. Oh boy. Oh, this is so hilarious. Yep, so you got to do multiple passes of a capture. So whatever you're capturing needs to be dead still. You can't capture video or moving objects because you have to run it through the filter. Okay, and we have this, which has the little stand with the broken plastic piece. And then this here is the USB microscope. It's got a micro USB input there. LED light button here. This probably does some kind of focus or something. And yeah, it's just you could look up close at things. In fact, it might be good for looking at these wafers. So I hooked the camera up to my Windows 10 machine and just plugged it in. It sees it as a webcam. There's a light on there. I'm capturing the screen. Let's take one of these wafer discs and see what we see. Oh, wow, that's really cool. I mean, again, I don't know if these are real wafers or what. Look at that. It says 1983 Rockwell International. So maybe these are real ICs. Here's a different one, and it says Rockwell right there. Let me try focusing a little better. Oh, it's so sensitive. All right, I'll switch to something else. So this is my desk. This is the wood grain, fake wood grain, clearly printed on. I mean, of course, this is a fake desk. It's plastic or whatever. It's not real wood. Let's check out one of these EPROMs. Okay, so there's writing, like the part number, Motorola. There's the Motorola logo. It's huge. There it is. You can see the bond wire going to the actual die. There it is, MCM 68764. So this is amazing. I can use this little microscope to look at my Chinese EPROMs I get from AliExpress to see what brand they actually are and maybe even the part number. I have another random EPROM. It's an AMD part just sitting on the side here. Let's look at this and see if it has writing on it. All right, there it is. AMD, copyright 1981. And it looks like it says 9716. That's interesting. It says 9716 because the actual part number on this is a 2716C. But nonetheless, that helps me identify what this actually is. So Stewart, thank you very much. This is going to be so cool for identifying counterfeit EPROMs. I'm probably going to make a whole video about counterfeit EPROMs now that I have this. And I know these aren't that expensive, and I don't know why I just never bought one, but I'm really excited to have this. This thing has got me giddy with excitement. All right, now I think I have saved the best for last. I got a glimpse of this when I was opening the box, and I purposely put it to the end of the video here because I kind of can't believe it. If this is what I think it is, my mind will be completely blown. First, I'm going to cut the plastic off of this. And let me flip this over. Oh my goodness. Oh, I can't even believe it. Yeah, I thought this is what I saw when I opened the package. And I just saw a little glance of this and my mind had a hard time processing it. So I just put it aside. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay, so that's just the packaging. So I haven't even said it, but what this is an HP 547A current tracer. This is probably the ultimate in diagnostic aids for fixing old computers. I can't even believe this. I am so blown away. Oh man. Once again, I find myself at a complete loss for words. This is pretty much unbelievable. I'm just shocked. Okay, let me try to talk about what this thing is. An HP 547A current tracer. What this lets you do is imagine I'm diagnosing a motherboard where a chip is causing a bus conflict. And it's probably what was happening on the Apple II Plus, to be honest, with that bus transceiver, the one I replaced. What happens is if two chips are fighting with each other, like say one is putting 5 volts onto the bus and the other one is grounding it, that condition essentially creates a short circuit between those two chips. And with this thing, which HP hasn't made in a long time, it allows you to probe around the motherboard, around the traces, and look for traces that are carrying more current than they should. When you have two things that are shorting out against each other, two chips, the trace or the traces that connect the two chips together, the two chip legs that are fighting with each other, they will be carrying more current than they should. And that's because, of course, one is outputting 5 volts and the other one is outputting ground, which you know what happens if you just directly connect 5 volts to ground, you get a short circuit. So this tip on here is red because it lights up, and as you probe around the board, it's able to sense in the trace itself the current in there. And there's an adjustment here so you can turn up and down the sensitivity, or you fine tune it because it's obviously going to be current running through the motherboard all the time while it's running. So you want to adjust it so you're not picking up that. You're only going to be picking up where there's a lot of current. And it can help you zero in on the chip that's creating the bus conflict. Now, of course, since this is a very rare item, I personally have never used one of these. In fact, I've never really seen one of these used much at all. I think I watched a couple videos where a guy was doing some arcade board repairs and he was using one of these, but they're just so uncommon that there just aren't a lot of people using these. So I'm definitely going to have to learn how to use this thing. Another great example where this can come in handy is imagine you have a data bus and you have 5 chips on that data bus and one of them is pulling data bus low, holding it to ground, which is creating a bus conflict. How do you know which 5 of those chips it is? Unless you pull each one out until that fault goes away, this could potentially help you. You just trace the traces, get near the chips, and when you get one that is lighting up the tip, I think that it's indicating that that chip is the one that's causing that short, and all of that current is feeding into that chip. There's a lot I have to learn about this thing, so I'm not going to be able to demonstrate it right now, but I am so excited. So excited. I mean, this thing, it's like gold. I can't even believe it. I've been wanting to get one of these for the longest time. And Stewart, you blew my mind with the Apple II Plus. I was taken off guard by that. And I was really, I am so taken off guard by this. My mind is having a hard time processing. I think I've mentioned that probably 5 times already. Sorry, everyone, I'm gushing. I'm going a little overboard here, but really, this is incredible. This is a piece of test equipment that just will hopefully up my game for problem solving these old machines to just bring me to the next level. I hope it will. I hope I learn how to use this and I can be worthy of having such an amazing piece of test equipment as the HP, what's the model number? 547A current tracer. And that is going to be it for part 5. In the next video, I'm going to be taking a look at those expansion cards and also those floppy drives. I know several people have been asking to see me work on those drives. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, but if you didn't, you know what to do. Hit that thumbs down button, hit that subscribe button to subscribe to my channel with the little bell icon for notifications. And of course, put your comments and your suggestions in the comment section below. And that's going to be it. Thanks very much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.